Have you ever wondered why some people can walk into any room and immediately command attention with their words? Why certain individuals can speak for just a few minutes and leave everyone hanging on their every sentence? The secret isn't magic, expensive education, or natural talent. It's something much simpler and more achievable than you might think. The truth is, powerful communication isn't about impressing people with complicated vocabulary or trying to sound like someone you're not. It's about connecting with others in a way that feels genuine, clear, and memorable. When you master this art, something incredible happens. People stop scrolling through their phones when you speak. They lean in closer. They remember what you said days later. Most importantly, they trust you. Think about the last time someone really captured your attention while speaking. What was it about them? Chances are, it wasn't their perfect grammar or their extensive vocabulary. It was something deeper. They had presence. They spoke with intention. Every word seemed to have a purpose, and you felt like they were speaking directly to you, not at you. This kind of communication power is available to everyone, but most people never discover it because they focus on the wrong things. They worry about sounding smart instead of being clear. They rush through their thoughts instead of taking time to organize them. They fill silence with meaningless words instead of embracing the power of purposeful pauses. Let me share something that might surprise you. The most influential speakers throughout history didn't always have the biggest vocabularies or the most complex ideas. What they had was clarity of purpose and the ability to make others feel understood. They knew that communication is not about showing off what you know. It's about ensuring that what matters most reaches the hearts and minds of those listening. The journey to becoming a powerful communicator begins with a fundamental shift in thinking. Instead of asking yourself, "How can I sound impressive?" start asking, "How can I be most helpful to my listener?" This single change in perspective will transform everything about the way you speak. Consider this scenario. Two people are explaining the same concept to a group. The first person uses technical jargon, speaks quickly, and jumps from point to point without clear transitions. They know their subject well, but their audience struggles to follow along. The second person uses simple, everyday language. They speak at a comfortable pace, pause between key ideas, and connect each point to something their audience already understands. Which person do you think will have more impact? The answer is obvious, yet many people continue to communicate like the first person. They believe that complexity equals intelligence, that speed shows confidence, and that silence means they don't know what to say. These beliefs are not only wrong, they're actively harmful to effective communication. Let's talk about the foundation of all powerful communication: thoughtful preparation. Before you speak, even in casual conversations, your mind should engage in a brief but crucial process. Ask yourself what you want to accomplish with your words. Are you trying to inform someone, persuade them, comfort them, inspire them? When you know your purpose, your words naturally align to serve that goal. This doesn't mean you need to script every conversation. It means developing the habit of pausing, even for just a moment, to collect your thoughts before speaking. This pause serves multiple purposes. It prevents you from stumbling over words or using unnecessary filler sounds. It allows your brain to organize ideas logically. Most importantly, it signals to others that you value both their time and your message, enough to present it clearly. During this brief pause, mentally identify your main point. What is the one thing you most want your listener to understand or remember? Once you know this, everything else becomes supporting detail. This approach transforms rambling, unfocused speech into clear, purposeful communication that people actually want to hear. The words you choose matter more than you might realize. Every word carries not just meaning, but emotional weight, cultural associations, and personal interpretations. Skilled communicators understand this and select their words with the same care that an artist chooses colors for a painting. Here's a principle that might challenge everything you've been taught about sounding intelligent. The best communicators use the simplest words that accurately convey their meaning. This isn't about talking down to people or oversimplifying complex ideas. It's about removing unnecessary barriers between your thoughts and your audience's understanding. When you use overly complex language, you force your listeners to work harder to decode your message. Some of their mental energy goes to translating your words instead of engaging with your ideas. Simple, clear language eliminates this problem. It allows your audience to focus entirely on what you're saying, not on figuring out what you mean. This principle applies whether you're speaking to children or senior executives, to friends or strangers, to one person or 1,000. Clear communication is universal. It crosses educational backgrounds, cultural differences, and age groups. When you speak simply and clearly, you include everyone in the conversation. But simplicity doesn't mean emptiness. Your words should be simple, but your ideas can be profound. Think about some of the most memorable phrases in history. They're almost always built from everyday words arranged in powerful ways. I have a dream. Yes, we can. Think different. None of these phrases uses complicated vocabulary, yet they've inspired millions of people. Now let's explore something that many people completely overlook: the music of speech. Your tone, pace, and rhythm are just as important as your actual words. You could recite the most beautiful poetry in the world, but if you speak in a flat, monotone voice, you'll put your audience to sleep. Conversely, you could read a grocery list with passion and energy, and people will stay engaged. Your tone conveys emotion, attitude, and sincerity. It tells people how to feel about what you're saying. A warm, confident tone invites people to listen and trust. A cold, uncertain tone pushes them away. The good news is that tone is completely under your control, and you can learn to adjust it based on your message and your audience. Pace is equally important. Speaking too quickly suggests nervousness or lack of confidence. It also makes it harder for people to process and remember what you're saying. Speaking too slowly can bore your audience or make you seem unprepared. The ideal pace varies depending on the situation, but as a general rule, speak slowly enough that your listeners can easily follow along, but not so slowly that their attention wanders. Strategic pauses are one of the most underused tools in communication. Most people are uncomfortable with silence and rush to fill it with words. But silence, when used intentionally, is incredibly powerful. It gives your audience time to absorb important points. It creates anticipation for what comes next. It allows emotional weight to settle. It also gives you time to think and choose your next words carefully. Here's something that might surprise you. The most powerful communicators often spend more time listening than talking. This seems counterintuitive when we're discussing how to speak effectively, but listening and speaking are inseparable skills. Great speakers are great listeners first. When you listen carefully to others, several important things happen. You gather information that makes your eventual response more relevant and helpful. You understand the emotional context of the conversation, which allows you to adjust your tone and approach accordingly. You demonstrate respect for the other person, which makes them more receptive to what you have to say. You also learn about your audience's concerns, interests, and communication style, all of which help you tailor your message for maximum impact. Active listening involves more than just staying quiet while someone else talks. It means giving your full attention to the speaker, both to their words and their emotions. It means asking clarifying questions when appropriate. It means summarizing what you've heard to ensure you understand correctly. When you listen this way, you're not just gathering information. You're building trust and connection. This leads us to one of the most compelling aspects of powerful communication: storytelling. Humans are wired for stories. We've been sharing stories for thousands of years as a way to teach, inspire, warn, and connect. When you incorporate stories into your communication, you tap into this ancient and powerful tradition. Stories work because they engage multiple parts of the brain simultaneously. When someone tells you a story, you don't just hear words. You visualize scenes, empathize with characters, and experience emotions. This multisensory engagement makes stories far more memorable than abstract facts or dry explanations. But effective storytelling in communication isn't about entertaining people with long, elaborate narratives. It's about using brief, relevant examples to illustrate your points. These mini-stories help your audience understand concepts by connecting them to concrete, relatable experiences. For instance, instead of saying, quote, persistence is important, you might share a brief story about someone who overcame multiple failures to achieve success. Instead of explaining, teamwork requires trust, you could describe a situation where lack of trust caused a project to fail. These stories don't need to be long or dramatic. They just need to be relevant and clear. The key to effective communication stories is having a clear point. Every story should support your main message in an obvious way. If your audience has to guess why you told a particular story, you've weakened your communication rather than strengthened it. As we delve deeper into the art of powerful communication, we must address one of the most critical elements: precision in language. Every word you choose either strengthens or weakens your message. There are no neutral words when it comes to impact. Consider the difference between saying, "that won't work," and "that approach presents some challenges we'd need to address." Both sentences convey that there are problems with an idea, but they create completely different emotional responses in the listener. The first shuts down conversation and makes the other person defensive. The second acknowledges problems while keeping the door open for solutions and collaboration. This isn't about being artificially positive or avoiding difficult truths. It's about choosing language that serves your communication goals. If your goal is to solve problems together, use language that invites collaboration. If your goal is to inspire action, use words that energize rather than deflate. If your goal is to provide comfort, choose gentle, supportive language. Precision also means being specific rather than vague. Instead of saying, "We'll get back to you soon," say, "We'll have an answer for you by Friday afternoon." Instead of, "That's a good point," say, "Your suggestion about improving our customer response time could increase satisfaction scores significantly." Specific language builds trust because it shows that you've thought carefully about what you're saying. One of the biggest enemies of precise communication is the habit of hedging. Words and phrases like kind of, sort of, maybe, I think, and probably can make you sound uncertain and unprepared, even when you're confident about your message. While these words have their place, overusing them weakens your communication power. This brings us to perhaps the most important aspect of powerful communication: the confidence to stand behind your words. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance or inflexibility. It means speaking from a place of genuine belief in your message and respect for your audience. Confidence in communication comes from preparation, practice, and experience. When you know your subject well and have thought through how to present it clearly, you naturally sound more confident. When you've practiced expressing your ideas out loud, not just in your head, you're more likely to speak smoothly and effectively. And when you have experience communicating successfully, you build trust in your own abilities. But confidence is also a choice you make in each moment of communication. It's the decision to speak clearly rather than mumble, to make eye contact rather than look away, to stand or sit with good posture rather than slouch. These physical behaviors don't just make you appear confident to others, they actually make you feel more confident yourself. Your body language speaks before you say a word. People form impressions based on how you carry yourself, how you move, and how you position yourself in relation to others. When your physical presence supports your verbal message, you create a powerful, unified impression. When your body language contradicts your words, people tend to trust what they see more than what they hear. Strong posture, appropriate eye contact, and open gestures all contribute to communication power. But perhaps most importantly, they help you feel more confident and centered as you speak. When you stand tall and make eye contact, you're more likely to speak clearly and with authority. When you use natural hand gestures, you're more likely to find the right words and express them with energy. The journey to becoming a powerful communicator also requires addressing the internal obstacles that hold many people back. Fear of judgment, perfectionism, and negative self-talk can undermine even the most well-prepared speaker. These mental barriers are often more limiting than any external challenges you might face. Fear of making mistakes is particularly common and particularly destructive. The truth is, everyone makes communication mistakes. Even the most skilled speakers occasionally stumble over words, lose their train of thought, or say something they wish they could take back. The difference is that confident communicators don't let these inevitable mistakes derail them. They acknowledge errors when necessary, make corrections when appropriate, and keep moving forward. Perfectionism can be even more paralyzing than fear of mistakes. Perfectionists often avoid speaking opportunities because they don't feel completely prepared, or they over-prepare to the point where their communication becomes rigid and unnatural. Remember that effective communication is about connection, not perfection. People respond better to authentic, slightly imperfect communication than to flawless but cold delivery. Your internal dialogue has enormous power over your communication effectiveness. If you constantly tell yourself that you're not good at speaking, that people won't find you interesting, or that you don't have anything valuable to contribute, these beliefs will show up in how you communicate. Conversely, if you remind yourself that your ideas have value, that you have something meaningful to offer, and that you're capable of clear communication, you'll speak with more power and presence. Building communication confidence is like building physical fitness. It requires consistent practice and gradual challenges. Start with low-stakes conversations where you can experiment with new techniques. Practice active listening in everyday interactions. Work on speaking more clearly and precisely in casual settings. Gradually take on bigger communication challenges as your skills and confidence grow. One of the most effective ways to improve your communication is to seek feedback from others. Ask trusted friends or colleagues to observe your speaking and provide honest, constructive input. Are you speaking clearly enough? Are you maintaining good eye contact? Do your stories support your main points effectively? External feedback can reveal blind spots that you might never notice on your own. Recording yourself speaking is another powerful tool for improvement. While it might feel uncomfortable at first, listening to recordings of your own communication can provide valuable insights. You might discover that you speak faster than you realized, that you use filler words more than you thought, or that your tone doesn't match your intended message. These discoveries, while sometimes humbling, are the first step toward meaningful improvement. As you develop your communication skills, remember that different situations call for different approaches. The way you communicate in a job interview should differ from how you communicate at a social gathering. The language you use with children should be different from what you use with adults. Powerful communicators are adaptable. They read their audience and adjust their style accordingly, while maintaining their authentic voice and core message. This adaptability extends to cultural sensitivity as well. In our increasingly connected world, you're likely to communicate with people from diverse backgrounds, cultures, and communication styles. What feels direct and confident to one person might seem aggressive to another. What appears respectful in one culture might seem distant in another. Developing cultural awareness and communication flexibility will make you more effective in all your interactions. The digital age has also transformed communication in fundamental ways. While face-to-face conversation remains the gold standard for building deep connections, much of our communication now happens through text, email, video calls, and social media. The principles of powerful communication apply across all these mediums, but each requires specific adaptations. In written communication, you lose the benefit of tone, pace, and body language. This means your word choice becomes even more critical. You must be clearer, more specific, and more intentional about conveying emotion and nuance. In video calls, you need to be more conscious of your facial expressions and gestures, since people see you more closely than they might in person. Regardless of the medium, the fundamental goal remains the same: to connect with your audience in a way that serves both your purposes and theirs. Whether you're speaking to one person or broadcasting to thousands, whether you're giving a formal presentation or having a casual conversation, the principles of thoughtful preparation, clear language, appropriate tone, active listening, relevant storytelling, precise word choice, and genuine confidence will serve you well. The path to communication mastery is not about overnight transformation. It's about consistent improvement, one conversation at a time. Every interaction is an opportunity to practice these skills, to experiment with new approaches, and to build your confidence. Some days you'll communicate brilliantly, and others you'll wish you could have a do-over. Both experiences are valuable parts of the learning process. As you continue developing your communication power, remember that the ultimate goal is not just to become a better speaker, but to become someone who uses words to make a positive difference in the world. Powerful communication is a tool for building relationships, solving problems, inspiring action, and creating understanding between people. When you use this tool responsibly and skillfully, you contribute to a world where ideas can be shared clearly, where conflicts can be resolved through dialogue, and where human connection can flourish despite our differences. The art of powerful communication is within your reach. It doesn't require special talent or years of formal training. It requires intention, practice, and the courage to engage authentically with others. Every time you choose to pause before speaking, to listen carefully before responding, to use clear language over complex jargon, or to speak with genuine confidence, you're developing this art. And with each small improvement, you're not just becoming a better communicator. You're becoming someone whose words have the power to inform, inspire, and transform both yourself and those around you.